Blizzards don't arrive screaming. They creep in quietly, erasing sound, swallowing landmarks, turning familiar places into blank white voids. In a blizzard, direction disappears. Time stretches, and fear doesn't rush. It settles in slowly, like the cold. These are three chilling, true blizzard horror stories. Not legends, not exaggerations. Real moments where people realize too late that snow can be just as deadly as fire. The first story takes place on a mountain road that locals avoided in winter. It was late December when a couple decided to drive through it anyway. They were young, confident, and eager to get home before Christmas morning. The forecast mentioned snow, but nothing alarming. Just flurries. Manageable. At first it was. Light snowfall, clear tracks on the road, music playing softly in the car. The heater worked fine. They joked about stopping for hot chocolate once they got off the pass. Then the wind picked up. Snow began blowing sideways, erasing the road markings in minutes. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The headlights reflected nothing but white, as if the world had ended just beyond the hood of the car. They slowed to a crawl, then they stopped. The car wouldn't move. The snow wasn't just falling anymore, it was piling. Drifts climbed up the doors, pressing inward with quiet force. Cell service vanished. The radio crackled uselessly. They called emergency services anyway. The dispatcher told them help was coming, but roads were closing fast. They were advised to stay by the vehicle and conserve heat. Hours passed. The engine died. They wrapped themselves in coats and blankets, breathing into cupped hands. The cold crept in anyway, first into fingers, then toes, then thoughts. Conversation slowed. Words became effort. At some point, the woman noticed something strange. There were footsteps outside the car, not animal tracks, human, circling the vehicle. She told her partner. He didn't believe her, until a shape appeared briefly in the blizzard just beyond the window. A figure standing unnaturally still, watching. They banged on the glass. The figure didn't move. Then it vanished into the snow. Search crews found the car 2 days later after the storm passed. The couple was inside, frozen. No footprints were found around the vehicle. The second story happened in a small town that prided itself on surviving harsh winters. A blizzard warning was issued early in the morning. Schools closed, roads shut down, people stayed inside, confident they had weathered worse before. A man named Elias worked as a night security guard at a warehouse on the edge of town. He considered calling in, but the paycheck mattered. He promised his wife he'd be careful. By nightfall, the storm was violent. Snow slammed against the building like thrown gravel. Power flickered, then died. Emergency lights kicked on, bathing the warehouse in dull red shadows. Elias called dispatch to report the outage. That's when he heard knocking. Not at the door, from inside the warehouse. Slow, rhythmic, too deliberate to be wind. He grabbed his flashlight and followed the sound, boots crunching softly on the concrete floor. The knocking led him deeper inside, toward a section that hadn't been used in years. The sound stopped. His radio crackled. Then a voice came through. His own. "Elias," it said. "I'm cold." He dropped the radio. Security footage later showed Elias standing completely still in the center of the warehouse for over an hour, staring into darkness. Then he walked out into the blizzard, without a coat. Search teams found his body less than a mile away. Cause of death, hypothermia. The radio was never recovered. The third story is the most disturbing because it involves survivors. A family of 5 was trapped in their farmhouse during one of the worst blizzards on record. Snow buried the lower windows. Wind screamed through cracks in the walls. Power was gone. Heat fading. They gathered in the living room, lighting candles, telling stories to keep the children calm. Outside, the world felt erased. Sometime after midnight, the youngest child spoke. "Who's that?" she asked. The parents assumed she was tired. She pointed toward the front door. "There's someone knocking," she said. No one else heard it. Minutes later, the knocking came again. Soft, patient. The father grabbed a flashlight and approached the door. He shouted through it, asking who was there. A voice replied, muffled by snow, weak. "Please," it said, "I can't feel my hands." The mother begged him not to open the door. No one could have survived outside for hours. Roads were closed, rescue impossible. The knocking continued. The children began to cry. Finally, the father unlocked the door. Snow poured inside, along with freezing air. No one was there. But in the snow just beyond the threshold were bare footprints, leading up to the door, then stopping abruptly. They closed and locked it again. The knocking never returned. When rescue crews arrived 2 days later, they found the family alive but shaken. The children refused to sleep near the front of the house ever again. Investigators found no missing persons reported in the area. No bodies, no explanation for the footprints. Blizzards don't chase you. They wait, they isolate, they confuse, they make people hear things, see things, and trust the wrong instincts. And when the snow finally melts, it doesn't take the fear with it, because the cold leaves behind something far worse than frostbite. It leaves questions. And the knowledge that sometimes the most terrifying thing in a storm isn't being alone. It's the feeling that you never were.